Okay. We are on Facebook Live. We are on Zoom. Welcome everyone to Raw Live. Truly appreciate for everyone to view the show and even who's currently live watching it, and for people who are going to watch it later. Thank you very much for being here. Today we have a wonderful, amazing, beautiful soul. So let me introduce our guest. Our guest today has a unique story of turning paralyzing setback into a powerful comeback. Her life journey is a relic of how all our stories are interrelated, because we have the power to take the smallest actions and make decisions that impact our world around us. She's had the guts to take challenges on the chin, the strength to grow and bounce back stronger, and the passion for achieving her goals. She's a committed human rights supporter and has established a non-profit foundation, which we will talk about during the interview. A wife, a mother, a businesswoman. Let us welcome our guest, Liza Pavlakos, who will take us on a journey of beyond survival. Thank you, Liza, for being on the show. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Rohit, for having me on the show. It's such a pleasure to be doing this with you. So I'm really excited.
So let's get into this, because when I informed people I'm going to interview, a number of people really got interested looking at the title. What is this? Where do you come from? So here's the very first question which I want to ask you is, just tell us your journey, Liza. What is your journey? What has your journey been?
My journey has been a really interesting journey. It's been a unique journey. If you ask me what my journey is today, I'll say I'm a mom of 5. I love cooking. I love to, decorate. I love to hang out with friends. That's my journey. For a long time, though, I had a very different vision of myself. I thought I was my past. And it took me a long time to actually realize, no, I'm actually not my past. I'm actually my present. I'm actually now. I have a very unique story, like many people around the world. And what I want to reiterate very strongly is that not one person's journey is far greater or far worse than another's. So as you hear about my story, you might think, oh my God, wow, like that's big or that's small. We're all on the same path. I was a victim of sexual abuse at a very young age. By the time I was 14, I had experienced rape by a first cousin of mine. And because I was really unhappy and depressed, I ran away from home at the age of 16 and became homeless. Fell in love for the first time at the age of 17 to a guy that I thought was going to be my knight in shining armor. But that didn't work out because he ended up becoming extremely violent. And some would say, how do you get into a relationship or stay in a relationship that's extremely abusive? But you have to understand the foundation. So if you are a product of abuse at a young age, you lack a lot of self-esteem. You become very vulnerable. You are wanting a lot of love. So you end up finding the wrong partner for you, right? So he was extremely aggressive and violent, so much so that on my 18th year, so when I was 18 years old, he hit me so hard on my face that I had to have the right-hand side of my face reconstructed.
Oh, wow.
So that was really intense. I broke up with him, obviously. It was the right thing to do because he was very violent. Enrolled myself into school and thought I was going to be free from abuse. And life started to pick up and life was wonderful and life was great for me. But unfortunately for me, one day while I was walking home from school, I had come across someone who had stopped me and said, hey, you're going to be the next model for a Nike campaign. And at that time, I thought maybe this is a good opportunity. You see, I had left home and was needing security and wanted to believe in a dream. I lacked a lot of self-esteem. I didn't think that I was good enough or pretty enough or worthy enough. So when this opportunity came around from this man who proved who he was, I thought it was a good opportunity. Unfortunately, it was the worst decision of my life because this man ended up kidnapping me, taking me away for many hours. And there I was abused so badly. And then in the final hours, was naked and was told that I was about to give my final rites before I was about to get murdered. And I really thought that after everything that I'd been through, that maybe now I was actually going to die. I actually survived this insane crime. And to find out more on how I survived, you have to buy my upcoming book called Voiceless No More, The Journey from Terror to Triumph. Not long after that experience, I had given birth to a baby at the age of 21 and was a single parent. And, you know, my life was really rock bottom. It was the worst that it could be. I was a child having a child, and I was a person who had carried so much trauma that really I shouldn't have brought a baby into the world with that kind of mentality and background. But I did. And my firstborn came into this world when I was 21 years old. And he really inspired me to become the best version of myself that I could be. So with Zero Startup, I started a company, and it was the first Miss India International for Australia. And I managed to negotiate deals in order to make this event happen. And my first event, I had 4,000 people attend my first show, and then another show, and then another show, and became an overnight entrepreneur. Since then, I have been in various businesses, like been involved in the restaurant business and the tailoring business. So we currently have a flourishing tailoring business called Melbourne Luxury Tailoring Services. So if people ask me, what's my journey? You know, I used to think my journey was everything that happened before, but really my journey is now I'm a mum of 5, and I'm Liza. I'm the person that likes to cook. You know, I am more than everything that happened in the past. That's the journey.
So that's the journey been. So, in this time when you were, you know, before your son was born, and whatever happened to you, what's happened to you, you started, you know, you left school, obviously was in an abusive relationship, and then you say you got out of that, had the reconstruction of the face. What led you to, you know, even though you were still going through some internal battles, what led you to, okay, I need to now go to school, and move forward and make things better for yourself? What was that sparked it?
Well, I think it was just knowing that I was capable of so much, and I had dreams. And in order to fulfill those dreams, you know, I really needed to work hard and apply myself. Look, you know, as soon as I ran away from home, I didn't really have the opportunity to really finish my studies properly or even focus on anything, because I was, you know, drowning with depression, you know. But since then, you know, I have my diploma in franchising. I'm a NLP practitioner. I'm a life coach. I am now doing my psychology degree. I've, had my, certification in business management.
Mm.
A real sense in business, because I've had 5 tailoring outlets and corporate accounts. I think what led me to wanting to study and pursue business is that so much power was taken away from me against my will. And the only way that I knew that I could give myself the power was if I actually applied myself to create my own power.
Okay.
That was my drive.
Okay, so that's where the drive came from. And obviously, at the age of 21, you had your first child. How come your child inspired you to do, because the child's a baby.
Yes.
How did that inspiration come just looking at that young one?
And my child was also conceived from crying. Wasn't conceived, of anything really necessarily my choice at that time. But regardless of how a child is conceived, when you're born, when you're carrying a baby, there is this connection that you have. And I just knew that my son was going to be my best friend, was going to be my savior, was going to be a reason for me to live. I mean, and I think you don't necessarily have to have a child in order to change a world. Like, there are many things people around the world can have and want to have. If not a child, could have a pet of some kind, or you have a friend, that that you want to hold on to. There's many things that can make us happy. For me, it was my son. And till today, he's the best thing that's ever happened to me.
And in this time frame where you had, were left home, were homeless, the abduction happened, and your firstborn coming into your life. At that time, was there any connect with your blood family? Were you still connected with them, or it was just you doing everything on your own?
I think my family, my mom especially, was really desperate to try and support me whatever way she could. But it was very difficult for her because, we come from an Islamic family and an Asian family, and she also at that time wasn't going through a good time in her life, because it's just really difficult when your child is going through trauma and then you are not in a supportive marriage. There was only so much my mom was actually capable of doing. But I will say one thing is that I really truly believe that till today, regardless of how much my parents were or were not in my life, my mom is definitely the reason why I am extremely strong, because she taught me a lot of lessons. Sometimes when a parent is not there, and they don't even mean not to be there, because they're just only capable of giving you what they're capable of giving you, right? That also teaches you, how you can learn to be a better daughter, a better sibling, how you can start to learn and embrace forgiveness, which is a really big thing. And of course, forgiveness doesn't come instantly. Everything takes time.
Yeah.
It takes a long time. But with my family, they tried to be there, but they weren't quite there. But that's okay, because I had my own journey that I had to fulfill to be here today.
So at the age of 23, you pull this amazing international beauty pageant. What made you do that? You know, with all that's happened in your life, you got a child in your life, and obviously there's that internal trauma which people go through, and you've been going through it. How come this sudden thing of, you know, you want to do this? What aspired you to go towards that? There must be something within yourself that said, you need to do this. What was it?
Well, when I left home, one of my first jobs was being a promoter in an R&B club, right?
Okay.
And that was probably one of the greatest lessons in my life, because, you know, I was, you know, making friends with the bus boys and the bus girls, you know, people that would bring in all the drinks. I was making friends, you know, with the bartenders. I would get to meet the organizers of the event, the DJs. So I learned at a very young age how to actually put on an event in a venue. I was a promoter myself. That was one of my first jobs, actually. And
Okay.
so my job was to bring in as many people as I could. And so if I brought in 20 people or 30 people, I'd get paid $1 for every person I brought in.
Okay.
And so for me, it was pretty good, because I was out with my friends, and then I'd make 20, 30, $40 on the side, free drinks. Life was great. When I decided to run my own Miss India, I knew the industry because I had already been working as a part-time promoter. And I thought, well, you know what, find a need, fill a need. I knew that there was no Indian massive event in Melbourne at that time. And also, because I had a very unique history, I felt like I wasn't the only girl that probably had a unique history. There were probably other girls that were probably being forced to have arranged marriages, or had probably experienced abuse themselves, but weren't able to talk about it. So I thought, well, if I create an event, and if I get, you know, X amount of girls together, it would give us all a space where we can communicate. And I could also somehow empower them to shine. That was my goal then. Like, I just wanted to give people an opportunity to shine, because I felt I didn't have an opportunity to shine. So I wanted to do things for people where I felt I wasn't given those opportunities, right? And that really inspired me very much so. And, you know, sure enough, it was a really successful event. I didn't plan for it to be successful, but it was the first time I had actually tasted what it was like to actually achieve something on my own and create something. It was amazing. It was an epic, amazing moment in my life.
Okay. And then you're looking at, so you progress on to you start this restaurant. How did that come around?
Well, I have a very wonderful brother, my oldest brother. He had a restaurant.
Yeah.
And his restaurant at that time wasn't doing very well. And he came to me and he said, you know, I haven't been able to give you much, but I have a restaurant that is struggling at the moment. Why don't I give you this restaurant and see if you can make something out of it? And I said, well, I don't even know how to make a coffee. I don't know how. My love for my brother, I wanted to make it successful for him. I wanted to support my brother in any way that I can. So he sort of handed me this failing cafe and failing bar. But I came in and I just, on my own, because my brother sort of just left the scene and left me with this place. But I painted all the walls and I put really amazing music on. And, you know, we had this laneway where all the tables were out for the, where people would sit. But I would actually go to the florist and I would put flowers on every table. So anyone walking past would just hear this amazing music and just see this laneway of just amazing flowers. Then I would cook Asian food and mix it with, you know, European touch. And somehow that bar, that time and cafe became extremely successful. Like if you came to my bar at lunchtime, we wouldn't be able to take you in if you just wanted a coffee.
Okay.
That way, because, you know, it was packed and it was great.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how does this transit into going into a tailoring business then?
Okay. Well, I met my husband, Nick.
Okay.
And he's a tailor. I actually met him, interestingly enough, I met him when I was 17 years
Okay.
old, when I was homeless. And I was homeless, but I just sort of found an apartment, you know, near his tailoring shop, and I wanted to get something altered because I was going out, you know, with my friends, and I rocked up to his shop, and I said, oh, you know, can you alter this dress for me? He charged me something like $30, and I'm like, $30? That's like way too expensive, because I really didn't have any money at all. That's how we first met. And it's kind of long story short. When I had the cafe, he walked into my cafe, and I sort of had a little bit of a crush on him, and we decided to go on a date, and then history. So he had a tailoring shop. He had one tailoring shop, and it was called South Yarra Alterations. And then, of course, I came into his life. We got engaged. We got married. And I turned with him that one tailoring shop. We turned it into 5 tailoring outlets. Then we had customers like Beyonce, Jay-Z, Michael Bublé, Chanel, you know, Australian Open, you name it. All the clients started coming in. And it was a thriving business as well. I think the thing is that for me, negotiation is simple. And I don't necessarily think it's because I have a talent in business. I have a talent in being streetwise, but I do believe when I had to negotiate my release from the man who had kidnapped me, it gave me a sense of strength and resilience, because when you survive almost being murdered, when you're given your rights, when you survive something like that, you think everything else that you walk into is a walk in the park. I think that's the key, you know, for anyone that is feeling like they're going through any kind of adversity in their life.
Yes.
They just think back and think long and hard. They've actually been through far worse, and they've actually been able to overcome. And so if you can overcome from one point to another point, then you can actually overcome anything. You have the right mindset.
So here's the thing. I mean, you talk about beyond survival. You've done that for yourself. You've achieved certain aspirations, certain goals for yourself. In this time and in this space which this has happened, would you say that it's been like since that you've had a smooth sailing ride since you got out of that, or even after all this trauma, you do go into challenges and issues?
You always go through challenges and issues. Trauma is not something that you just fix overnight. You know, it takes work, and you have to come to a point where you say to yourself, I love myself enough that I'm going to actually work through my trauma, right? And it's not just working through your trauma through seeing a psychologist or a life coach or a counselor, but it's also, what do you need to do for yourself to get the justice that you feel you deserve? If you haven't been abused before, then do you need to think about pressing charges? You know, do you think, you know, and maybe, you know, whatever abuse that you've gone through, and I'm just talking now about people that have experienced abuse, because that's violence is something that I'm quite familiar with, right? So if you've experienced violence from someone else and you need closure on it, well, maybe you can't charge the person because you can't take them to court. Maybe the police won't take it to court.
Yeah.
Not sure what everyone's situation is different. But then you need to have the courage to actually go to the police and report it, or just do whatever you think you need to do to have your sense of justice, to have your voice. For me, for a long time, I was doing, I was doing, the tailoring business, I was doing the restaurant business, I was doing, the pageantry business. But for me, my healing and my closure comes from keynote speaking, from inspiring people, But I also made sure that anyone that needed to get charged, I did whatever it took to have them accountable. Now, some cases, were successful, and some cases didn't go all the way, but that's okay. But I've written a book, right? And I've left some sort of legacy behind over what's happened. And this book is going to be able to transform lives around the world. So every person needs to do what they need to do for themselves. So it's always going to take work. And there are going to be days that you have down days, and there are going to be days that you have up days. But then you have to ask yourself a couple of really important questions, which is, what do I need to do in order to survive? And I'll say, well, you have to go beyond survival. How do I go beyond survival? Well, you need to thrive in the face of adversity. Okay, but how do I thrive in the face of adversity? Then you have to ask yourself, what's your narrative? Okay. What's the narrative you tell yourself about yourself?
Yes.
What are the stories you carry in your head about yourself, or about your perpetrators, or about your family? And at what point are you going to find closure with things that have happened to you? And how do you find closure? Well, then you need to find help, because there's plenty of help out there. There's plenty of people that will support you if you find it. Yeah. So to answer your question, it takes lots of work.
Takes a lot of work. And you talk about this, what's your narrative? Now, can we go a bit more deeper into this? What do you mean by what's your narrative? Because my understanding is, in any given incident, so like we're doing this talk over there, there's a certain narrative which is playing with me at this moment. I go and do something else, there's some other narrative playing out. So we can have multiple narratives playing out, but that's my perception. What do you mean by what's your narrative? So people are much more clear if they have been into this adversity scenario, what can they do? What is that narrative? What does that mean to you?
What's your narrative? How do you see yourself?
Okay.
Do you see yourself as a victim? Do you see yourself as a victor? Do you see yourself as someone who's had a lot of injustice? Or do you see yourself as someone free from the injustice? Okay. So what's your narrative is really about you and your journey. What are the stories you tell yourself about yourself? And so when you start to change the perception of you and how you view yourself, then you will change the way you view the world. So I hope that answers your question, because what's your narrative is just really, it's about you. Like, what's your narrative? Yeah. Okay. Are you the struggling keynote speaker, or are you the thriving keynote speaker? Liza, are you the struggling keynote speaker, or am I the thriving keynote speaker? How do I view myself? What's your narrative?
Now, this narrative which you're talking about, let's say for those people out there whose narrative is, I'm struggling, no one loves me, or, I always mess up my relationships, or my job is not going great. Or, for example, in the case of abuse, that, why me? Why, everyone's is terrible. What possible steps, or even that one step they can do to move out of that narrative or transform their narrative?
Okay, so let's do an exercise.
Okay.
and we'll do it one question at a time.
Okay.
Okay. So give me one question.
One question?
Give me one statement. One statement like you just said before.
Okay, so I'll give you a statement. I'm struggling. I'm always struggling, let's say.
I'm always struggling.
Yeah.
What is the opposite to I'm always struggling? If you were to turn around.
Always thriving. Thriving.
I'm always thriving.
Yep.
I'm always, you know, I'm always struggling. I'm always trying. I'm struggling. I'm very selective. I don't just accept anything, you know. Give me another statement.
Okay. I mess up my relationships.
Okay. What's the opposite to that?
I have great relationships. Okay.
Yeah. But we're just thinking about that relationship that you feel that, you know, or that person feels, I mess up my relationships. Perhaps the opposite could also be, I have so much self-love within myself, I just don't take shit.
Okay. Okay.
Right? I have boundaries. And I respect myself, that I will not be walked upon. Right? So what's your narrative is really how you see yourself. And we all have the capabilities to actually shift that mindset by shifting the way we view our stories. So you asked me right at the beginning, you said, tell me about your journey.
Yeah.
Right? And the first thing I said was, well, my journey now, I'm a mom and I love to cook, you know, and I love to hang out with my friends, and I'm really amazing when it comes to doing the Melbourne shuffle.
Okay.
Techno dance. I can.
Are you going to do that for us?
I won't do that now. Like, correct.
Damn.
I'm really good at that. So, you know, you asked me about my journey. My journey is, I am more than the keynote speaker. I am more than even just being a mom. Like I'm Liza, and I love certain things, and that's who I am. That's how I view myself. Right? Because if I was to sit here and go, I'm Liza, the keynote speaker, or I'm Liza, the human rights supporter, you know, then my narrative is also a lot of ego, you know, and I like to remove that because I'm more than my job. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing, and correct me, it's like not to box yourself and be open.
Yeah.
So it's about being open. So a lot of times I hear people say, you need to take action. You need to take action. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of effort. And there are people who put the effort, they put the action, they put the hard work, and yet they still are not getting so-called the results they would want to have. How do they motivate and inspire themselves again to say, okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to do this again, because they see themselves as some kind of failure?
Well, they really have to ask themselves, are they loving what they're doing? Because if they really loved what they were doing, right, they'd be happy to stay up till 4 a.m. doing it, or even, okay, you know, sleeping at a healthy time, but then waking up at 4 a.m.
Yep.
And just really investing all their heart, blood, and soil and toil into it, right? So once they can figure out if they really love what they're doing, then they can spend so many hours and feel like they're not getting any return, but eventually the will come, because it just takes tenacity. You know, you just got to keep plugging it and keep doing it. I mean, we're going through COVID right now. There is no business in the world that isn't struggling, unless you're an essential business, right? essential businesses are really surviving. But COVID has just changed the world, right? So now is the time that we can say, oh my goodness, I've just lost everything, or I've actually got time to reinvent and really put all my passion into making my business succeed.
Okay, fair enough. In terms of your family life, you've got wonderful kids, and recently I saw a nice TikTok of literally all of you doing that. How do you encourage your children? Yeah, and all of them are different ages. How do you encourage them to be in that space of being victorious rather than looking at things as from a victim perspective?
Yeah, I have 5 children.
Yep.
And yeah, you're right. They're all different ages, spanning from 21, and my youngest is 6. I just tell my children to have fun,
Okay.
and to be kind. I think being kind is the most important thing. And when you're kind and you're having fun, and also not only that, like my child said to me the other day, she said, oh, when it rains, it's sad because the clouds are crying.
Okay.
And I said, well, maybe, but maybe when it rains, it's the most beautiful time because the gods are, God is showering the plants with love, right? It's really how I'm saying things. So I try and just make my kids shift their narrative all the time. But the most important thing is trying to be kind, which is something that I've taken a long time to also learn, because for a long time I wasn't kind towards the people that have hurt me. Not that I was malicious to them in any way, right? Not that I would actually go out and hurt them, but how can I say, I really just saw them as perpetrators. But there's been a shift, and now I've come to a space because I truly have found inner peace, and that takes a lot of time because I've asked myself, what's my narrative? And now I've come to a place of forgiveness. And it takes time for people to come to that place. You can't tell someone who's been hurt, you have to forgive. That takes time. Once they've done all their mourning, and once they have really done everything that they need to do for themselves to get their closure, then they will naturally come to a time when they are ready to forgive.
Okay. Now, in order to, this is very interesting because I was just talking to a loved one this morning about forgiveness. And I said, it's very easy to say, forgive someone. What is your way of forgiving someone? How do you go through that process now that you've gone through these scenarios and you're more wise in your ways? And if someone was to come and hurt you in one way or the other, how do you forgive someone?
Well, for me, depending what kind of hurt that is, hopefully it's nothing physical, because I'm not talking about those kinds of hurts. Really, like that takes time, as I said, to process. But if someone was to say something that hurt me, labeled me, or just I've had some trolls. I've had trolls, even friends who became trolls and sent really nasty messages, right? We no longer speak really, but that's okay. But I want the best for them. That's how I achieve forgiveness. I want the best, because wanting anything negative for someone or people doesn't get me anywhere, right? Then I'm no different to them. Then it's just hate, harboring hate, and we're all just hate. So I really just focus on trying to want the best for the other person, whoever they are, and telling myself that, you know, I've made peace. I'm always, anyone that knows me knows that I'm always the first one to apologize, even if I have nothing to apologize for. And I don't mind being the first one to apologize because, well, you know, life is short. One of my really favorite quotes is by Rumi, the Persian, and he wrote, "Life asked death, why do people love me but hate you?" Death responded, "It's because you're a beautiful lie and I'm the painful truth." I truly believe, especially because of the experiences that I've had to live through in my life, violence and abduction and, you know, some really terrible things. I have had a taste of what it's like to be so close to death. Because of that, I think that life is so short, and so I want to spend the rest of my life trying to be at peace as much as I can, because harboring anything negative doesn't get me anywhere. It's wasting my energy. I rather put my energy into cultivating something good that can give me power, and then also help other people create and regain their power.
So something interesting happened to you in 2017 in Africa. So you want to tell the viewers, the listeners, what happened? That was, you know, after you listening to all of the scenario you've gone to, and suddenly this happens in 2007. So let's hear it from you. What happened?
Well, okay. Well, it didn't happen in Africa.
Okay, sorry, apologies.
But that's okay. I was on my way to Africa.
Okay.
And it happened somewhere in the Middle East. Right? Basically, to cut a long story short, and I've been told not to say cut a long story short because it's like, but I just love saying that. Untrained. Our driver turned out to be a human trafficker. And our driver, unbeknownst to me and my team, my cameraman and my assistant, was taking us to the desert to have horrible things happen to us by terrorists. We were very blessed because we were intercepted by military intelligence. And consequently, I was also thrown in prison in the Middle East.
Okay.
Because not just myself, it was my team, my cameraman and my assistant, because we had to prove that we were not spies, you know. We had to prove that we were not doing anything wrong. Thankfully for us, we were very blessed because military intelligence found evidence of more than 350 people that were murdered. And look, at that time, I had intense post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, I would say that it's just gone away instantly because everything takes time, and I've, you know, I've had a lot of support, special support and stuff like that. But surviving that is one thing that made me realize, like, oh my God, I know what it's like to be kidnapped one-on-one and almost murdered.
Yeah.
But now I also know what it's like to be human trafficked. and there's one thing when you're kidnapped and almost murdered and you're on your own versus when you've got your cameraman and your assistant and you love them and their lives are at stake as well, right? So that it's a very, very different thing. We were so blessed because the military intelligence in this particular country in the Middle East, they were fantastic. They were just amazing. So amazing. So, you know, I don't want to put anyone off the Middle East in any way. So that's why I don't really talk about the story much. But what I will say is that as I look back on that experience, I think to myself, in our life, we go through things.
Mm.
And perhaps we go through things so that we can then be the person that we're meant to be.
Yep.
Right? So, for an example, I started working in the promoter scene, right?
Mm.
And then was on stage with my Miss India show.
Mm.
So I was already on stage, 4,000 people. I was an MC. You know, at such a young age, I already had practice on stage.
Mm.
But then at the same time, I had gone through so much adversity that I understood that adversity. Now I'm on stage all around the world, except for COVID. Now I'm on Zoom. But I've been on stages all around the world, from America to Africa to, you know, Australia, Asia, 4,000 people in a room. And I can manage that because I was already on stage at a young age.
Hmm.
And so while I was on stage, I was speaking about, you know, what it's like to be going through violence.
Hmm.
But having experienced being human trafficked,
Hmm.
now I can speak about what it's like to experience human trafficking. And it's not just, you know, it's not just me. There's millions of people around the world get human trafficked.
Hmm.
You know, millions of people around the world get abused. So what I'm saying is that experience made me realize that I was always meant to be a keynote speaker, but I was always meant to talk about more than just what it's like to experience violence one-on-one. This is a global matter, you know. And now I can speak with so much more experience. I mean, that's the only way that I can make sense with some of the things that I have survived. So there's a reason, you know, and I'm not justifying anything that happened. It doesn't make anything right, but I'm happy to do this because I understand it.
So you've got a non-profit organization, a foundation. What is that all about?
It's called the Liza Pavlakos Foundation.
Yep.
So one of my favorite places to go to is slums. I just love being in the slums. And I've experienced so many different slums around the world and orphanages. And I just love it because the people in the slums and the orphanages, they're so resilient. And I feel like I relate with so many of those people because they are just so strong and they can just overcome some of the just worst scenarios. My Liza Pavlakos Foundation that I set up is there to support people in slums around the world. So I take donations, and with those donations, we end up buying school supplies. But we've just come up with a new concept, and it's called Fluffs. And Fluffs, FLUFFS, fluffs.com. Fluffs is actually fairy floss. So what we're starting to do now is try and send fairy floss business that we've created to orphanages, so that people in the slums and in the orphanages can then make fairy floss and then sell it, and they just make very little money, but it's money that just keeps coming in, because who doesn't like candy, right? Cotton candy. Some will say that you know, it's not good to have cotton candy and it's not a good business, you know, idea. But at the same time, you know, we use organic sugar. It's one thing. And the other thing is that it's just that little bit of sweetness, you know, to any kind of sadness. I've also, you know, in traveling around the world, I've also met so many different people who, you know, have been working for 5-star hotels and they don't earn much money, especially now with COVID. You know, their salary has been cut down by 50%. So if they were earning $5 a day, now they're earning $2.50 a day.
Yep.
So now they have an opportunity to come into our franchise. And so it's a very, very small amount to actually buy into our business. And with that small amount, and I'm talking like less than $1,000. What they get is a fairy floss machine. They get sugar. They get to be part of the franchise. We teach them how to run their own business, and then they get to then sell their fairy floss and keep generating an income. And I'll tell you what, they make more money than $2.50 a day just by selling their own fairy floss. So the foundation is there to empower people either to go into their own business or to study.
Okay. You also have this leadership school. What's this? What is this all about?
Well, the leadership school is part of the Liza Pavlakos Foundation, and we teach you how to be leaders, really, how to thrive in your business, and it's an online platform that we have programs that we can learn. So yeah.
Okay. And in all of this journey which you've had so far, because of what you've gone through and with all what you travel and all that, how does your husband take all of it? How does she, what is that connection you have with him which keeps it going on for both of you?
How is the connection, our relationship connection, or the stress?
The relationship, the stress, how do you manage all of that?
Well, I was about to call him actually, so you could ask him yourself and put him on the phone. Well, probably not a good idea because he's my best friend, and he doesn't own me and I don't own him. Because we're best friends, the dynamics of our relationship is it's so different because there's no sense of control in our relationship whatsoever. So he's fine. I mean, at the start, I used to really get annoyed with him because I'd be like, I'm about to catch a flight and it's like 3:00 in the morning here in America, and you're sleeping, or you need to know what flight I'm actually getting on, because I was so tired. I was losing my mind sometimes, right? So I just wanted him to sort of know which flight I was going to get on. No, he's great. We made a pact when I was traveling. So the first time I left for one of my speaking engagements, of course, my whole family, like the children, everybody came to the airport. So everyone was crying at the airport. I said, I can't do this because this is work, right? And it's hard for me, it's hard for them. So I made a rule. If ever I had a speaking engagement, no one was allowed to drop me to the airport. No one was allowed to pick me up from the airport. That I was going to drive, park my car, jump on the flight, and literally treat it as work. So yeah, we set up our own rules, but no, he's been really supportive. I am a motivational speaker today because of my husband, because he is the one who pushed me to really, really embrace who I am and just go for my dreams. Never stop. So yeah.
So here's a question for you. At home, when you're with the kids and you do some kind of motivation, I wouldn't say a motivation talk, but a motivation chat with them, do they ever go to you say, oh my God, here goes mum again with the motivation stuff?
Well, my son calls me, oh, here's my mom, the international hot dog maker. He knows me as the international hot dog maker. No, they don't. They don't. They don't. My kids just see me as me. So, and when I discuss things with them, they just, understand where I'm coming from. So no, they don't roll their eyes or anything like that. I think they're just really happy to have me home, because for the past 5 years I've been traveling a lot, and leaving children behind to travel, it's quite testing on them. So when COVID came and I'm stuck at home, they've just been really happy about it.
Hmm.
We've had to reconnect all of us together.
Hmm.
But even when I was traveling, it was fine, because even when I was in my destination, wherever I was, like, we would still FaceTime, and, you know, I'd try to get them cool via FaceTime. I'd be there with them when they were brushing their teeth. Tried the best that I could.
Hmm.
No, they don't roll their eyes.
And before we close the interview for today, final question, and this is something which I hear many people say, and this is what I hear even motivational, inspirational, spiritual people, even people who are very very grounded. I hear this: have gratitude in life. What is your take on that? On having gratitude?
Yes, I think it's really important to have gratitude for the simplest things in life. The simplest. Gratitude for the fact that, you know, we can breathe, that we're alive, for the, you know, birds and the trees, our sense of freedom, you know, gratitude for the legs that we have, the arms that we have, or just life, you know. Try to be in the moment, and appreciate, you know, the moment. The other day, I woke up in the morning, and I was making the bed, because I'm the only person that makes the bed in the house. My husband does not make the bed. And I actually said to him, you know, what if this was the last time I was going to make the bed? You know, because I've been making my bed my whole life, just like everybody else out there, you know, that way. But what if it's the last time we make our bed? What if tomorrow we're not here? We don't get to make our bed. Enjoy the moment and in full gratitude. And I know some people go, yeah, whatever. But it's I do believe in gratitude. I believe in kindness. I believe in spirituality. I believe in God. You have, you know, a love for something so much bigger than yourself. You will find that the answers come to you easily.
And final question, what is that one thing people could do at this moment in time who are feeling they're in a very tough situation, so they can just take that small step to move forward?
Try and think about what they really love to do. Try and think about their passion. Because when they can really tap into their passion, they'll find that their passion is their purpose. And so this time that they have during COVID in lockdown at home, really hone in on that passion, and then try and make something out of it. Try to take their mind from a negative place of lack and put their mind to abundance. Try to ask themselves, what's my narrative? What's your narrative? You know, and shift those questions, right? So I'm in a negative place of mind. I'm in a negative place at the moment, let's just say. Well, maybe I'm in a peaceful place, right? Maybe I'm in lockdown, and maybe it's given me time to think about something else that I can. That's the only thing I can say, because your passion is your purpose.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Really appreciate you being on the show. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. Where can people get in touch with you? How can they get in touch with you?
They can go to www.whatsyournarrative.com. And there I offer coaching sessions. So we can have a one-on-one brainstorming session about finding your passion, and wherever it is that you're feeling, taking you from a negative place to a really positive place. And if you are already in a really positive place, then I'll take you to an even more positive place, right? So you can find me in whatsyournarrative.com. You can watch any of my show reels and stuff on YouTube just by typing my name, Liza Pavlakos. Sounds like Pavlova, but it's not. Pavlakos. I'm sure you're going to have all the link in the bio and everything.
Yes.
But before I go, Rohit, I want to say I love you. Seriously. I really do.
Thank you.
It's been
Thank you.
on your show.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I really, really appreciate it. And by the way, if the way I met Lisa was, it's strange, is that we've never ever met physically. It's all been online since 2018, and we've had that connection from that time. And it all started because I sent Lisa an email with one of my talks. She called me up and she spoke to me on the phone for over an hour, and since then we've been brothers and sisters. That's what it is, you know. That's what it is. So thank you so much, Lisa. Truly, truly appreciate it. Thank you.
You're a superstar. I love you so much.
Thank you.
Bye,
And
guys.
bye to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for watching the live.